I've been recommending it to everybody.
Yeah.
Just because it's fun, it's good mystery, it's a great sci-fi story.
Yes.
Little bit of satire in there. It has some
Social commentary.
Yeah. That doesn't beat you over the head. It
No.
makes sense in the story, and you could tell that like that's the kind of story that developed from the social commentary they wanted to explore.
Yep.
And it's fantastic. The acting is great. I can't praise this movie enough. But
Yeah.
But let's get balls deep into it.
Let's get balls deep into that praise.
We're just touching the tip. So. Welcome to Cast with No Name. We are your hosts. I'm Jay.
And I'm Matt.
This is episode 65. This episode, we keep our pimp hand strong, and as we review and discuss They Cloned Tyrone. But first, don't forget to visit our website at castwithnoname.com, where you can write to our email, comment on episodes, and listen to our entire episode library. And thank you, as always, for listening, and please rate us on Apple. You can also catch us on Spotify. Plus, we are on YouTube. So, They Cloned Tyrone.
Yes.
Last week, we talked about Extraction on your recommendation. And then I had mentioned this.
Yep. Never heard of it before.
To you. Yeah? You
never heard of it.
Never saw the trailer or anything?
Nothing.
Did you just go in blind?
Went in blind.
Nice. I saw the trailer. And when it actually came out on Netflix, I was like, oh, all right. I remember the trailer being enjoyable. But let's talk about first impressions and recommendations first, and then we can hop into spoiler discussions for it.
Sure.
So I guess, what were your thoughts?
I thought that it was fresh, inventive, entertaining, funny, and those are all heightened because I wasn't expecting it, because I had no idea what the movie was about or didn't see a trailer or anything. Great acting. The shots were great. The cinematography, and we'll get into that, was really, really good. Overall, I loved it. Depending on what I watch the rest of the year, Jay, this might be like on my top 5 favorite movies of the year. Might be.
I have a feeling this will probably more than likely be on my top 5. Going into this, the only thing I saw was the trailer, and the whole plot of the movie was kind of revealed in the trailer. It wasn't. There was still mystery. There was still the question why or what's happening. But as far as the hook of the story, that was revealed in the trailer. But I agree. It is, to reuse your phrase, it was fresh. It felt like the people that made this movie thought about it longer than 5 minutes. It felt very well thought out. The acting was phenomenal. I think this is probably one of my favorite roles, if not favorite role, that Jamie Foxx has ever done. It's definitely, I have not seen Attack the Block, but it's probably the favorite thing I've seen John Boyega in. Granted, the only other thing I've seen him in was the new Star Wars movies. I thought Teyonah Parris playing Yo-Yo, I thought she was great. This is the best thing I've seen her in. Of course, again, the only thing I've seen her in was WandaVision and Captain Marvel.
More Disney IP?
Yeah.
They're just sucking all the talent up.
Yeah, they just really bring out the best in those movies.
Yeah.
But no, the acting, the storytelling, the sense of mystery, the cinematography, but above all, I feel like the acting was really great, especially John Boyega. I mean, he killed it, and he surprised me the entire movie, even up to the very last scene of the movie, to where he just added a little bit of something extra, which we can get into. And I was like, why the fuck is this guy not in more things other than Star Wars crap? And I was really surprised by it. It made me, this sounds corny, this gave me the sense of feeling that I used to have when I used to watch movies, discovering like a bunch of new genres of movies and everything else, to where now I feel like I'm at the point I've kind of seen it all. This kind of switched it up. It made me excited, and it kind of brought that feeling back that I used to get back in the early 2000s when I was discovering a bunch of different types of films. And I thought it was great. The story was great. The characters stayed true, I feel like, throughout the whole movie, to where characters aren't just making dumb decisions for the sake of dumb decisions. If they made a stupid decision, it was true to their character. It was what, not that characters make dumb decisions. These characters are smart. It's just that if they do something stupid, it made sense for their character, as opposed to having them do something stupid for the sake of comedy or for the sake of trying to build a false sense of suspense in the plot or anything like that. But I agree. It's definitely in my top 5, if not one of my favorite. It's definitely one of my most favorite things I've seen this year so far.
Yeah. So we're going to agree on a lot of things here.
More likely.
Sounds like it.
This will be a very boring. This will be the Chris Farley show.
No, we can talk about why it's so good.
Yeah.
I like that. I appreciate the recommendation, because I probably would not have watched it if you hadn't said anything.
Yeah, and I haven't really seen a lot of people talking about this movie. And
I saw that it got a 6.7 on IMDb, and I'm
which
like,
is bullshit.
That is so low.
I don't know how.
I don't understand.
I don't understand that either.
Little Mermaid got 7.2. What are we doing here, people? What are we doing?
It's, if you haven't seen it, we're gonna hop into spoilers. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it.
I do too.
And watch it. It's on Netflix. It's fantastic. I guess it did get released in theaters for like a weekend in some areas,
like in LA or
LA. I think in Alabama. Like, I think probably more major metropolitan areas. I can't recommend it enough. I've recommended it to you. I've recommended it to my brother. Anyone I talk to about movies, people I work with, and I've been recommending it to everybody.
Yeah.
Just because it's fun, it's good mystery, it's a great sci-fi story.
Yes.
Little bit of satire in there. It has some, I guess, cultural, like
social commentary.
Yeah. That doesn't beat you over the head. It makes sense in the story, and you could tell that, like, that's the kind of story that developed from the social commentary they wanted to explore.
Yep.
And it's fantastic. The acting is great. I can't praise this movie enough. But but let's get balls deep into it.
Let's get balls deep into that praise.
We're just touching the tip. So
yeah. Well, let's start with like the. What did you think of the? I guess the overall the location, like the Glen itself. Did you get the sense watching it, like, what time period are they even in right now?
Yeah,
and why do you think they made the choice to? I have a theory on why they made the choice the way they did, but why do you think the viewers like your question, like, okay, I see a flip phone, I see bell bottoms, I see they're talking about Bitcoin. There's a beeper store.
Yeah.
There's a beeper store.
There's some anachronisms. Like, it feels like it's kind of out of time, but at the same time, it's the setting and like the Glen. I like the Glen because you didn't know really what state it was. It was just a neighborhood,
right?
And parts of it, like I kind of felt Chicago when I watched it.
Or Cleveland
or it could have been any city. They didn't really pinpoint it. At first, maybe LA, but I mean, you come to find out it wasn't LA. Or wasn't in LA. But as far as the time things, like, it did feel very 70s and 80s. It felt kind of a callback to blaxploitation films.
Even grindhouse movies.
Yeah. And
the way the camera was, and the overexposed. Did you notice like some of the, what's that effect called when like it it happened in 70s movies all the time. There'd be like a black spot in the screen, and then they would come back out.
Cigarette burns.
Yeah.
Film burns. Yeah, they would have film burns in there. That it would, and it was very. It was a dark movie.
It was like grainy.
Yeah,
almost.
It was grainy, dark. Had that 70s, early 80s feel. Their costumes felt very 70s. Their vehicles that they drove, everything felt very. And I cheated.
Oh, you did?
A little bit.
Okay.
Because I like this movie so much, I just started looking up.
Yeah.
Like I looked up who directed it, which it's directed by Juel Taylor, and this is his first movie that he directed. It was written by him and then co-written by Tony Rettenmeyer. And
Didn't they work on Creed 2 together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they've had some experience working in, obviously, with movies, but you could tell this was kind of like a passion project. And it had that feeling. And but the look and the stylings of the movie, especially with the characters, is supposed to be reminiscent of 80s and 70s because they wanted to go after the manufactured look that was engineered by white movie producers of how black culture should be, or how black people dress and how they act. So it was kind of supposed to build on that to set that media expectation as far as what's been done in the past 20, 30 years.
Right.
Which I thought was great because it did feel 70s and 80s, but at the same time, if someone told you, oh, this takes place in 2023, you would still believe it because it's presented so well in the movie, but also is supported by what media has shown us for our entire lives, pretty much, to where that's not really out of the ordinary, to where I feel like maybe I think that because I had not a hard time, but it was unique to try and, I guess, not pick apart, but just kind of decipher the movie or just read the film a little bit, because we're coming at it from a different point of view than what someone would in like downtown Cleveland or Cincinnati or whatever. I mean, and just because we don't have those experiences, to where I wonder if it would be more blunt, I guess, or more of a, not a slap in the face, but more of a ha-ha, like, oh, we don't dress like that. We don't, like that. That's very old, to where if it would be the same thing, to where if we were shown a movie like in the 50s and then you see a Leave It to Beaver dad coming in and talk, oh, gee, gosh darn, you're like, yeah, that's so old that no one acts like that. Yeah. But that's the way they portray white people in the 50s, to where I wonder if modern black audiences looked at this and then they thought, oh, that's so old. Like I that kind of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, I thought that they chose this. I had another angle that I was thinking. Getting into spoilers here, like what the movie's essentially about and what they figure out. I'm like, oh, okay, now this makes sense. Like with this grindhouse appeal, the fact that it's in the 70s and it's just weird. It feels out of place from a time perspective. Like you can't make heads or tails of what's going on. It's because that the final revelation is so batshit, like crazy. It'd be like something that would be the plot point for like a grindhouse movie or like a B movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. It made sense because the person who created all of that is basing it off his own life, like his own life experiences, to where when he was younger, that's what people dressed like. That's how people acted. Which, spoiler alert, we're already into spoilers. You find out at the end of the movie that Fontaine's character, played by John Boyega, is a clone, but himself as a clone was designed by his prime self, meaning his original version of himself.
The OG self.
The OG self, the OG Fontaine, actually was a biochemist and bioengineer, and he created the clones.
Yep.
And more importantly, he created his own clone, which we'll get into more. But yeah, it definitely made sense.
Yeah. If they would
Not
have
only
played
from
it,
the social commentary side of it, but just in story.
right.
And that's one of my favorite things about this movie is everything makes sense in story. Nothing exists for the sake of it just existing as a joke or the sake of existing to make a commentary on something. It all fits in the narrative and it makes sense in the world that they built.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
What did you... I guess what were like story overall? I guess what were your impressions? Like, I mean, that's kind of an open-ended question, but I guess more specifically, at any point did you feel like you knew where the story was going?
Once he got shot the first time and he wakes up, I'm like, okay, there's a cloning aspect to this. Obviously, it's in the title. But did I have any inclination of like the reasoning behind it, behind the experiments? No. I was not expecting that at all. Yeah. Which was nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's kind of why I enjoyed this movie is because I didn't know where it was going to go.
Yeah.
After watching the trailer, I knew there was a cloning situation, and I was pretty sure that it was Fontaine's character. But after he gets shot and he wakes up, I was wondering, okay, did the clone get shot? Is he the original guy? It wasn't so much as, they're not all clones, but it's just a clone. They wake him up, kind of.
Yep.
The only part that I predicted was that his mom was fake, but that didn't come until after the fact, after they met Donald Sutherland's character.
Kiefer, you mean?
Yeah. Sorry. Kiefer.
Is Donald Sutherland alive?
Oh. I think he is.
I think he's still kicking. Yeah.
Kiefer Sutherland's character. After they got out of the dance club, and when he kind of went on his monologue as far as, we create this environment because we need to have a control group, and so that way we can kind of fine tune our recipes to be able to better control you or whatever. At that point, I was like, his mother's probably fake, and kind of a thing. That's the only thing I picked. I didn't see O.G. Fontaine actually being behind the bioengineering.
I did make one wrong prediction.
What's that?
I thought that because when Kiefer Sutherland makes his first appearance, he's like, I'm not even the head of I can't remember the dialogue exactly, but it's like, I'm not the main guy. I just work for the main guy. Mm-hmm. And I thought, it's probably like the little brother that they keep showing a picture of. Like, he's like grown up or something. Yeah. That's what I thought it was going to be when they revealed the main architect behind the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, I was wrong.
Yeah. And the other aspects of the story is they foreshadowed correctly. Mm-hmm. A lot of times in movies and television, they will Kiss Kiss Bang Bang made a joke about just obvious foreshadowing. Yep. And to where, oh my God, that was a bad piece of dialogue. I'm sorry. It's like when you're watching a TV show and you're like, oh yeah, the new power plant just opened up. Oh, gee whiz, I wonder where the climax is going to happen. Yeah. It felt natural. He was flipping through television. You'd see a commercial and you would think, it's just it wasn't hot damn chicken. It was
I think it was goddamn chicken or
goddamn chicken. Goddamn chicken. And
that commercial was great.
And you see that
commercial was great.
And you think it's just like some kind of piece of flavor for the scenery or whatever, but then it builds on it. It's there for a reason. Same thing with the hair commercial, the hair cream commercial. And then you there's like a church commercial in there, and you don't pick up on it. It's not obvious. The whole movie doesn't stop. I mean, it does for the goddamn chicken, but I mean, but that it was kind of funny.
Yeah, it was funny. It's good.
But the whole movie doesn't come to a screeching halt to give you a piece of foreshadowing. That's obviously going to. It actually treats the audience like they're intelligent,
right?
Which was nice. And but they called back to everything. Even with, I mean, even the small shit, like when they go to the chicken restaurant and they see the manager and he's pretty much a white guy with a fro.
Yeah.
And you think that guy exists just so Jamie Foxx can make a joke that he's like, how the hell do you have a fro and you look whiter than whatever his joke was? And you think that character just exists just for that sake. But then at the end, it's a bigger piece of the story.
It brings it back, yeah.
Yeah, and they bring it back to where O.G. Fontaine says that, the biggest problem was the hair. And but so everything just kind of makes sense, and nothing's left hanging out there really to be extraneous or anything like that. It's all woven together very well. Like I said, well thought out, to where there's nothing wasted in there. Everything in there has a purpose.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Man, and Jamie Foxx was so good. So the thing with all this that's sprinkled in there is like it's really, really funny. That scene where they're trying to scheme on how to infiltrate the underground experimental lab, and they're like pretending to give each other blowjobs and I'm like, this is so funny. I was crying.
Yeah,
and they're talking all smart. Yeah, it's three white guys with the lab coats. And he's like, really, 3 lab coats? Yeah.
Yeah, which is great because I mean, and this movie does have those funny moments, and it's genuinely funny. It's not just stupid quips or anything like that. It's all character driven. It's situational driven. It's but then it also kind of holds your suspense and. But there isn't like a 5-minute ad-lib scene to where people are just kind of riffing back and forth kind of a thing. And if they did, then they did a lot better job than what Paul Feig can do on whatever fucking movies he's making now.
Yeah. Yeah, they felt scripted.
Yeah.
Like they're part of the script.
It felt well written.
I actually liked that whole sequence where they infiltrate. It felt almost like an Ocean's 11 kind of thing. How they told it.
Yeah,
like they started
because they go back.
Yeah. They reveal how they got there. Anyway, that was smart. Again, it's just another technique they used it kept you on your toes.
Yep.
It wasn't the same like bland, stoic tone throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, it took slight turns. One of the things I liked, it's very small, but it makes sense for the characters. Is after they find the trap house for the first time, they go into the elevator. They see the guy. They leave, and then they spend the night at Yo-Yo's grandmother's house. And she's saying, all right, we need to stay together because they're going to be out looking for us. We need to stay together. And it was stupid, but Fontaine gets up and leaves in the middle of the night, gets his crew, because Fontaine's a drug dealer, and he gets his drug dealing crew, goes back to the trap house to storm it.
Investigate,
for his character, that's what he would do.
Yeah.
Slick Charles, Jamie Foxx's character, he would not want to be involved in that.
Yeah.
He's kind of a pussy a little bit.
Yeah.
But he's supposed to be, and he plays that character well. So the decisions that all these characters, and that's just one instance, but the decisions these characters make, they may put a wrench in each other's plans, but it makes sense for that character, and it's not in there for the sake of, we got to add another dramatic piece in here, kind of a thing. But at the same time, him making the decision for that, he felt like he couldn't really trust anybody, which brought him back to Yo-Yo and Slick Charles. And so it made that group a little bit tighter because he couldn't feel like he trusted his crew with the experience, because his crew was like, hey, we all slip. They didn't believe him. So it kind of helped solidify it and took that option off the table, because I think a lesser movie would have just had him stay with the crew and be like, we're all alone, and audiences would be asking questions like, you have a whole gang on your side. Why aren't you talking to them, kind of a thing. So
Yep.
it kind of takes care of that, but does it in a way that's true to the character. I mean, and there's just a bunch of small instances like that are just really well done, that helps push the movie along, but also without the expense of making any of the characters stupid or acting out of turn or anything like that.
Yeah. What did you think of the like the little touches that they had in there? Like I'm thinking of God, what was the character's name? Frog, the homeless guy.
Yeah,
he's like, oh, the wizards got another one. It's like little things, little touches like that, where he's referencing the Wizard of Oz, obviously, and like there was another thing I can't remember, but it was just really smart writing. That if I were to watch it again,
you watch
I'd be
it
like,
again. He's
okay.
He's on point
Yeah.
with every single thing that he's saying, because obviously he's aware of the situation, but the way he's saying it, you could just disregard it as the rumblings of a homeless drunk or whatever.
And then the very first shot of the movie are these giant like eyes of this white guy, and they just they pan out, and he's got this weird smile on it, and then it shoots to a bunch of guys playing dominoes. I'm like, why would they do that? And then after you watch the movie, it's like it's symbolism. They're watching over you.
It's symbology.
It's symbology. It's symbolism. Really smart choice. So again, it's
and I feel like this is so good.
Yeah.
I was going to compare it to Jordan Peele, but it'd be unfair for me to do that because I've only seen Nope.
It definitely reminded me of Get Out and Us. Us is kind of the same, like underground experiments, doppelganger kind of stuff. But yeah, it's definitely in that vein of social commentary, but using sci-fi as the tool to do the commentary.
And that's why, I mean, because as a genre, good sci-fi
does that.
Yes, it should warn society of a possible future. And as a genre piece, this movie does that in the sense it goes a little bit satirical about it.
Yeah. You know what it reminded me of? Was, remember, have you seen Soylent Green?
No. It's people.
Yeah, it's people. And the whole, of course, that's ridiculous. But the commentary is corporations are corrupt, and they'll do anything to save the buck.
Yeah.
That's what. But yeah, it's using, like you said, it's using a ridiculous, bordering on satire concept to kind of, I don't know, comment on it. In a fun way or an entertaining way.
And that's where, like, I mean, some of the themes I have written down, because I kind of go back and forth. Like, obviously, there's more than one theme. They're saying more than one thing, and so from just because just on the surface, you could read it several different ways, and I think this is like a huge complex conversation. And I've already had 2 martinis tonight, so
yeah.
But like you have, I even have like 4 different things written down. But,
well, what's the first one?
Bear with me. All right. So, the first thing is like Kiefer Sutherland, when he comes out and he kind of reveals to them, he's like, you're a control group. We need to keep you guys at the status quo.
Yeah.
And these themes kind of bleed into each other. So what he's saying is, we created this environment for you, and it's so that way we can test out our product or whatever, our chemicals, to be able to control you better. And we created you, Fontaine, and Slick Charles, because you guys are pillars of your community. You help keep everyone else down for the most part.
Yeah.
To where, and he puts it in the guise of, oh yeah, if you guys aren't doing what you're doing, a Starbucks would show up here in 5 seconds.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then this whole place would be gentrified, and we'd lose our control group.
Yeah.
So you have the theme of, I guess, white civilization or white sectors of a society keeping down black communities, but then that slowly bleeds into the theme of society creates the drug dealer, Fontaine. Society creates the pimp, Slick Charles. But then that then bleeds into the theme of, because Fontaine and Slick Charles both get disenchanted with their lot in life. Mm-hmm. They now look at it as useless. And they think, oh, I was just created to keep my community down. So that bleeds into just because you're a product of your environment or product because of whatever white society wants you to be doesn't mean you need to be that anymore. But then that slowly bleeds into you can kind of be your own man. You can make your own difference and not be a cog that keeps your own community down and in its place. You can kind of lift up your community. And then in that sense, but then that also bleeds into Fontaine was created by himself pretty much to do that because his end goal is to assimilate with white society and remove the entire black race. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so you have like so many different themes like kind of all bleeding into each other to where I think that's what causes like some of the at least for me, like difficulty as far as like kind of picking things apart and like thinking, all right, what is this really trying to say? Because again, we're coming at it from a different point of view.
Yeah. I don't think it's trying to say anything. I think it's just commenting. You know what I mean? I think it's just it's literally just commenting on and making an analogy for how Juel Taylor views society right now. I don't think he's like blaming anyone or like I don't know. I think I literally think he's like, this is the way I see things. Well, I don't have a solution. I don't have an answer.
Yeah, and I don't think he's blaming anyone either because it's not so clear. It's not blatant.
No, it's very foggy.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's kind of like a kind of a blob of ideas, which isn't a bad thing, but because you could look at it, I mean, someone could watch this and think, oh, it's about how, I mean, I could see this several different ways. I could see this, I could be a viewer, watch this and think, okay, yep, it's about how white society keeps black communities down. Or I could watch it and say, oh, it's a movie about how black members of a community that are created by their environment, as they get older, they in turn keep their own community down, which creates the perpetuate and create that circle. I could also see it as to where, oh, this is a commentary on black Republicans because they want to, like, they're trying to appease themselves to white society or something like that. Like, because you see some articles to where, oh, if someone is a black Republican, then they're kind of ostracized almost or looked down upon a little bit from their own race at times, just because they think, well, you shouldn't be a Republican because you're black. You have to be Democrat kind of a thing. So to where that kind of gets into the O.G. Fontaine thing, to where him trying to make everyone white because he said, oh, well, assimilate or die kind of a thing. Right. So, I mean, there's several different things. I just from my own mind, just trying to decipher, like, I wonder what the overall theme is, other than maybe it's just a conglomerate of different views as far as what the movie's kind of presenting.
And we should say the reason that the O.G. Fontaine decided to start this was because the brother that I thought was going to be, who O.G. Fontaine ended up actually being, was killed by a police officer and just left to die. So his solution is, if
you have that whole thing to
right, that's police brutality. Yeah. So his solution is we just all need to be white, so something like that wouldn't happen. Like a cop wouldn't do that to a white kid, kind of thing.
Yep.
So I mean, yeah, I mean it's really good writing.
Yeah.
For social, it really is. If you agree, disagree, you have to give it up. It's really, really well thought out.
Yeah, and that's why I like this movie, because there hasn't been a movie like this to where you could actually discuss it with somebody and or debate it or whatever, because there are so many different ways you can kind of look at this movie and come to your own conclusion. And one of the movies I can think of is like Donnie Darko. Of course, that was like so arbitrary or so obtuse at times to where no one really knew what was going on, but you could kind of have fun and talk about the movie with a friend and kind of kick ideas back and forth as far as what you think means what or what
Right.
actually happened, kind of a thing. And same thing with this, to where, and I've only seen it once. I wanted to watch it again because I think I watched it about 9 days ago, and I wanted to watch it again before this podcast. Didn't get a chance to, but I'm going to be watching it again very soon. Just I want to pick it apart. I want to see what else I missed, and because it's intriguing, it's fun.
Yeah. Real fun.
It's very entertaining.
It reminded me of Get Out in terms of, I loved Get Out. I thought that movie was, I hadn't seen anything like that in a long time, and this reminded me of that. Just the energy behind it and how fresh it felt. Because Get Out, it's a way different movie. That's has like a horror tone to it. With comedic elements here and there. Obviously this didn't feel like a horror movie at all. It felt like I don't know. At times it was like I felt like I was watching a Terry Gilliam movie, where it was just fucking weird.
Yeah.
It was just out there, but it was funny, and it was almost like an action comedy kind of thing with sci-fi thrown in there.
Yeah.
So completely, like 3 different tones mashed up. I just hadn't seen anything like that in a while.
Yeah, and they do a great job balancing the comedy with the tone, because they could have easily just made this movie into a joke kind of a thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't do that. It takes time to have those beats. Like after the meeting with Kiefer Sutherland and Fontaine is kind of just sitting around his house, just kind of, well, I'm just going to do what I'm doing because this is what I was made to do. Once he gets over that part of himself, then he goes to see Slick Charles. Slick Charles is kind of like in the same kind of, like he stopped pimping.
Yeah.
Because he's like, no, I don't want to contribute to this.
Yep.
And that's another theme, to where it doesn't matter if what society expects of you or how society kind of brought you up, you still have the power to be your own person to better yourself, better your community. And because, which I thought, that was probably my favorite aspect of this movie, is that those two characters kind of coming to that realization. And they came to it, I think gradually. And I think the, obviously the conversation with Kiefer Sutherland was kind of like the obvious turning point, but I think they were already heading that way anyways, because they weren't as concerned with their drug dealing or their pimping up to that, but they were more engrossed in like, what the hell's going on, what is happening to our community, and that kind of put more of a priority in their lives earlier in the movie anyways, before Kiefer Sutherland.
I mean, little plot hole here, but if the reason you have to clone certain people, because gang warfare, whatever, shit goes down, why wouldn't you? They already have the capability of saying words to control people. If you are watching them all the time and like, oh, they're about to run up on Tyrone and shoot him, like, wouldn't you like dispatch some people and be like, Morpheus Black, and say, don't kill Tyrone. Oh, and then go back on your merry way. What say you, Jay?
I say no, because not everyone was cloned.
I know, that's what I mean, though. You don't have to clone to mind control, right?
But, well, yeah, true. But they were working on the mind control. They needed to perfect it.
Oh,
so
okay.
they can't.
That's what I missed.
It's science.
It's science. Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to think of like flaws, and I can't really pinpoint anything where I was like, oh, that sucked, or I wouldn't have done it that way.
Nothing is blamed, because very few movies are perfect. But if you're entertaining enough and you have a good enough story and good enough characters, you put on a blindfold for that stuff, and because you just don't notice it, because you're engrossed in the story. You love the characters in this movie, and I can't think of a flaw in this. I was glancing at user reviews because I was curious to how this got a
6.7. Yeah.
And I think some people were just shitting on this movie just to shit on it because some of the stuff, there's so many plot holes. I mean, people were just speaking in generalities. They weren't
taking it too literally.
Yeah, they weren't
too seriously.
I don't know what the hell their problem was. Sand and vagina, probably.
Yeah.
95% of the time it's sand and vagina.
Yeah.
But no one was bringing up any particular things. It was always, there's so many plot holes, and this movie sucked. The acting wasn't good, and I'm like, well, what instances are you talking?
Like, you're never gonna get that specific.
No, I know.
It's user reviews.
But no, I couldn't.
Let me tell you about a one-page thesis.
The only thing that I felt like it kind of dragged a little bit in the third act, but it wasn't much.
I was just gonna say, if I would have slimmed something down, it would have been the Kiefer Sutherland when they're shooting each other near the clones.
Yeah,
some of that. Yeah, you probably could have cut out a little bit of those things, but I mean, they were using that to set up. Hey, we have spots in L.A., Chicago, all over the country set up. He could have just said that and maybe another line, and then because I was more interested in where Fontaine was going, and because I knew that he was going to end up figuring out who the architect guy was.
Yep, and I agree that whole scene, which I hope they don't do a sequel because
I don't think you can say anything else.
I mean, I think it's good.
Yeah, just leave it alone.
It's great as is. Because I feel like it would just be more of the same kind of thing. Unless there was something else. Like, you would have to have a whole, like, another 5 things you want to say.
Yeah.
And if you do, great. You have another, but I feel like it's one of those, not lightning in a bottle, but just one of those just single movies.
Yeah.
And that was really well done. This was on the Blacklist in 2019. The Blacklist is a list of Hollywood scripts that have been unproduced.
I thought you were referring to the television show starring James Spader.
No.
I'm just kidding. I knew what you were talking about.
But yeah, it was on the Blacklist in 2019. But I think it's great.
Good thing they picked it up.
I think it's great how
Yeah.
how a community can contribute to its own form of control.
Yeah.
While viewing themselves as victims of actions of other people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another. I mean, that's something I picked up. I thought it did so good. I like that and the. The 3 things that kind of, I guess, exemplified their culture in Glen was the chicken place, the hair salon, and
the church.
The church.
Yeah.
And all of which was controlled by either white people or the corporation that.
Did you love Grape Drink?
I immediately what Grape Drink? I chuckled because I immediately thought of the Chappelle
show. Yeah.
Oh, you got some of that grape drink.
What's that grape stuff back there? Oh, what's that purple stuff back there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I would love to. I don't know. I haven't seen any interviews with Juel Taylor. I would love to know if he thinks, because I think if he intentionally meant to do this or unintentionally meant to do it, the idea that all of our problems will be solved if we assimilate to the white race. And maybe people do think that. White people think society would be better if we all assimilated white. But obviously that idea is dumb because that wouldn't solve or end human suffering or injustice just because y'all look the same.
But maybe from their standpoint, not a pipe dream, but more of I can definitely see how black communities would think that, though, especially because like you said, the reason why O.G. Fontaine is is engineering so that way all black people eventually turn white is because of police brutality. Mm-hmm. And I can definitely see the reasoning, and I could definitely understand how a lot, like how black communities could think, if I was white, this wouldn't have happened to me. and they could very well be correct.
Yeah.
And would it end abuse of power from police if everyone was white? No, because they would still abuse the power. But I mean, it's definitely an interesting thought, and I think it's, and again, it's from our point of view, I think we kind of have a limited, I guess, insight, because I mean, this may hit 100% home.
Sure.
For black audience across the country.
Yeah.
And may, I mean, but it's like anything else. It may hit home for some, may not hit home for others. But
I guess my point is that, again, whether intentionally or unintentionally, that idea is so wackadoo, but the tone of the movie and the way it's presented, it fits. If this was done straightforward with, like, you know, Christopher Nolan cinematography with a beautiful score,
yeah, it is a wacky idea.
It's a wacky idea.
It's
and like it's like a Soylent Green is, you know, they're eating. It's like that. It's in that vein.
But it's at the same time, once you meet that character too, you understand that the guy's not really right in the head. Like, he's a smart guy, but you could tell he's just way far off, and he is suffering from pain and trauma when he was younger, and that's an interesting statement too, is like what do people turn into from experiencing that at a young age, and what kind of changes does that do to a person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done though.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Very good.
I kind of can't wait to watch
it again. Well,
I enjoyed it.
Of all the stuff
much.
That's out there, this is on Netflix. This is my favorite thing that Netflix has put out this year.
Oh yeah, definitely the best thing Netflix put out this year. Well, Cobra Kai is coming up. But
that's right, it does.
Yeah, I can't think of anything that I enjoyed more than watching this.
You know what makes me sad, though?
I recently watched Severance, but that came out last year.
Right.
But I just saw it same thing with Ted Lasso, I guess. I mean, that was fun, but I mean, this was a different level. Like, this actually, I was like, it was fun. It was good mystery. It was great. What were you going to say?
You know what makes me sad?
What?
Is Juel Taylor's next movie, it's not going to be as good as this.
Was it Space Jam Legacy Part 2?
No. I don't think he has anything attached to him right now. I'm just saying his next movie won't be as good as this.
Maybe.
It's going to be tough to top it.
Maybe.
It's like you always say. You have a lifetime to write your first one, and you got like a year or two to make your second one.
You do, but he also wrote Creed 2.
It was okay.
He wrote Space Jam: A New Legacy.
Didn't see it.
I didn't see it either.
I'm sure it's great.
I don't see that on principle. I'm not a sports guy.
Yeah.
But
I'm not a bad movie kind of guy.
If I was mad because everyone kept comparing me to Michael Jordan, the number one movie that I would not do to a sequel to would be Space Jam. I don't know.
Well, that's logic. I don't know. Most people don't have that.
Well, I don't have like
that
20,
logic attribute.
I don't have 20 yes men around me.
That's true.
Talking into my ear.
That's true.
But no, I mean, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what he does.
I am too.
I think, I hope a lot of people are watching They Cloned Tyrone, because I want more of that. Like that.
Yeah.
It was the first movie in a long time that felt like a movie. And I think the reason is it didn't feel like it was a movie by committee. It felt like it was from somebody's mind, and they had something to say, and they had a really strong vision in their head how they wanted to tell that story.
Yeah,
and you could tell that from everything was just so well. Yeah, the lighting, the musical choices, the acting, the characters was, I mean, the biggest thing, I think, and. You just don't get a lot of that.
I didn't realize John Boyega had like that hard exterior. I'm so used to him as being thin. like the gigantic pussy from Star Wars.
Yeah, he looked a little gaunt or whatever. Not as
and he had this
soft
look. And I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, I had to tell Christy, I was like, do you know who that is? And she's like, what? I was like, it's Finn. Of course she did. I was like, it's John Boyega from Star Wars. He played Finn, the stormtrooper that turned. And she's like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah. And then, that was the other thing. His acting in this, fantastic. Mm-hmm. And then at the very end, you finally meet Tyrone.
Yeah, I know.
And it's a different version. It's a clone, but he's in L.A.
Yep.
And when he speaks, just a slight difference in accent.
Yep.
And the guy's British. Like, I
know.
Mean, it's like amazing acting. He did a phenomenal. I mean, all three of them did. The three main actors, they all did great, and that's like, what the fuck is Disney doing?
I don't know. Yeah, just make more movies like this.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that you have this talent.
I know.
And it's wasted on
nonsense.
These shit stories.
That's what I'm actually worried about. They're going to hire Juel Taylor to direct the fucking new Lando Star Wars movie. Like, say no, Juel. They're going to throw
I'm not
so much money at you. I already know it.
I mean, I'm not worried about Juel Taylor. I'm just worried about.
No, like, I'm worried about that.
No, I'm just
I don't want him to.
Well, no, I don't want him to do that either. But I'm just saying, like, great actors in general. Like, you had Star Wars, and you had John Boyega, and
yeah,
like, it was wasted.
Yes, very much so.
And the Marvels movies, you have
what's her name?
Tiana Paris.
Yeah, she gets to play Monica Rambeau.
I saw Captain. Great. Saw Captain. Whatever. What's its nut?
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, Captain Marvel. I saw WandaVision. She was
generic.
Like, that's all it is. It's just.
It's terrible. She's great in this.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
She's really good.
And because I only saw the trailer. I didn't, other than Jamie Foxx and John Boyega.
Yeah.
But the entire movie, I was like, God, she looks so familiar.
Yep.
I was like, I've seen her in something. I've seen her, and I was like, oh. It's like, and it just made me mad. I was like, how does a company get? Well, I know. Get all this talent and just fucking waste it. And it's I don't know, that
movie by committee, baby.
Yep.
Did you notice that David Alan Grier as the preacher?
Yeah. I didn't know it was him.
That was
when
awesome.
I was watching it. I almost felt like I was like, God, I feel like it's like, why am I getting Eddie Murphy vibes right now?
Yeah.
And but I didn't notice. I looked it up after because I felt like the preacher felt familiar. Like, it felt like a character from Coming to America.
Yeah.
And
I love that scene too. Yeah. I haven't been to church in a while. I don't remember it being like this.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah. But yeah, I recommend it.
Yeah.
It's great.
I think now that we've recorded this, I'm going to seek out some reviews and
pick them apart.
Well, no, I'm just going to
see what they say.
Yeah, what they say, cuz I think I googled to see if any, because I follow a couple of people on YouTube or because they do like quick short review things, and none of them did this. It was like
none of them talked about it.
Like secondary channels or just people I've never heard of that have reviewed this. So I'm going to go back and watch some of those, see what they say, see if I get any insight on it. Because I mean, movies like this, I love just like digging deep and figuring out, like watching interviews and seeing
what they thought,
the thought processes during creation, like, because there's always like nuggets. I mean, it's like watching the bonus features on Blu-rays and DVDs. That it's just getting I want more information. Like, I want to know what the thought process was. What inspired people to do the choices that they made, all that good stuff. So, and this is the first movie in a long time I was like, oh God.
I would love to hear the pitch that he gave to Netflix.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting.
Unless,
if I was greenlighted and I'm like, what is it about?
or they just came across a script and they decided to buy it because the
Could
script
be.
was good.
Could be. I don't know.
Because it was, if it was on the blacklist in 2019, I mean, Netflix could easily just look at that list and be like, oh, yeah, we'll buy that.
Yeah.
Which one? The list?
Yeah, the whole list.
But yeah, great on. I'm surprised this isn't being talked about more. I feel like
It's got 6.7 on IMDb.
I think it's great.
Yeah. It'll be on the list. Top 5.
Yeah,
probably.
It's a shit ton of stuff has to come out for me to boot this off top 5.
It's good.
It is good.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think there's nothing more to say. It's good. Go see They Cloned Tyrone. It's very good.
Yes. On Netflix. Good job, Netflix. You made a good movie.
Yep. You sure did.
Let Juel Taylor write more things.
Yes.
Let
Direct more things.
Yeah. That's who you need to have in your stable Netflix is Juel Taylor.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, next time we're gonna get Atomic.
See what you did there.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I'm talking about Diary of a Wimp Kid because they give him an atomic wedgie. I'm just joking. Nope. Join us next time as we talk about Oppenheimer. As long as we can see it.
I know. If we watch it, we'll talk about it.
Freaking life getting in the way.
I know. It's so hard.
But yeah, Oppenheimer. We're throwing it down. So
Yep.
we won't be back next week. We'll be back the following week. Maybe I'll get drunk and do a bonus episode. I
You
doubt
should.
it. Maybe just slurring my.
Just talk about something. Yeah.
You know what grinds my gears?
Yeah. Just
Just me bitching about drivers.
he's bitching about women. Jason, I think he's misogynist.
So I come home and dinner wasn't ready. But yeah, next week. Not next week. Week after next. Oppenheimer. Next episode.
Till next time, Jay.
Till next time.